Today on Hands-On Photography, I'm going to go through some of your feedback and I'm going to answer a pretty popular question regarding your photos. Printing them. Should you print them at home? Should you use an online printer? I have a couple thoughts on this. Can't wait to share it with you. Y'all stay tuned.
This is TWiT.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am at Pruitt, and this is Hands-On Photography here on TWiT TV. Hope y'all are doing well. I am unbelievable as always. And on today's episode, I'm going to dive into some feedback that has been submitted from you, the Hands-On Photography listener. But before we get into that, I want to say welcome to all of the folks that are listening to the show or viewing the show for the very first time and say thank you as well. Now that you're here, go ahead and hit subscribe on whatever podcast application you're enjoying this on, because we're available on all of them. Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, the whole 9 yards, folks. And you can also check out all of our subscription options in previous show notes over on the website, twit.tv/hop. That's twit.tv/HOP for Hands-On Photography. So go ahead and check out our website. And also, if you're curious, feel free to check out Club TWiT. That's where you can check out some additional content from us here on the network. That's twit.tv/Club TWiT. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with this week's episode. All right, so I wanted to go through my good old mailbag, that is hop@twit.tv, and see what you folks have been sending me, where there's image critiques and questions and feedback and so forth. And I got 2 things today that I wanted to share because I think it may be quite useful for all of our Hands-On Photography listeners and viewers. So let's go ahead and fire up the first one here. This first email says, quite simply, I want an opinion of these 2 items. Number 1, the Canon Speedlight 470EX AI flash. Number 2, camera lens anti-reflection lens hoods, lens skirts anti-reflection. And this comes from Mr. Lawrence Keel. All right, straight into the point. I totally dig that. But let's check out this flash that he's mentioning. So let me hop on over to my screen here. And this is the Canon Speedlight that he mentioned. And as you can see, if you just look at it straight on, it is just a Speedlight. But it's listed at $299. Okay, so why is this thing $299? It is a Speedlight. I mean, have y'all seen Speedlights or flashes? They're yeah, I've seen this Speedlight before from Canon, and I am a Canon shooter. I'm a Canon fan. I'm unapologetic about it, but I do not use the Canon Speedlights. I just don't see the need for it. When you go down and look at the specs, it talks about all of the power that it may have and the high-speed sync capabilities and the guide number. The guide number is this big thing here. That's usually what matters the most. That's telling you how much power you're getting out of your flash based on the distance and based on your ISO range, so on and so forth. Those are pretty comparable numbers to look at right there. And yeah, this is great stuff from Canon, but I just couldn't quite pull the trigger for spending, as this is listed here on B&H website, $299. Personally, I'm more of a Godox fan, or Godox fan. When I met them in CES Asia, it was Godox. I'd rather take a look at their flashes because they're a lot less expensive, and 9 times out of 10, they're pretty daggum capable. So if I hop over to my other tab here, this is the Godox TT685N. I have this one, and it flat out works. And if you want to stick it into a softbox, you can get a nice Bowens mount softbox and adapt this to that. It'll work for that as well. It's going to have just as much power as the Canon, if not more. The guide number is going to be quite the same. It's got everything that Canon has, and it's just a third of the price. Why is that? Well, a couple of things to consider. When you're looking at these, heck, any of the photography gear, now that I think about it, when you're looking at photography gear from the first party manufacturers versus a third party manufacturer, you have to look at build quality and you have to look at support of said product. Buying from Canon, you're going to get a certain level of build quality, but this is a Speedlight. The Speedlight is made of plastic. It's not going to be, when you pick it up and hold it in your hands versus another third party one, it's probably going to feel exactly like what the other ones are. It's just, it's plastic. There's only so much you can do from a build quality standpoint, from a outside shell, if you will. Now, the internals may be a different story. Canon may have access to some different internals that may be slightly more expensive and feel that's going to be a good justification for the cost. On the other hand, those other third-party companies are going to use something that may be a little less expensive and be just as good. Your mileage may vary. That's when the support is going to come in. Canon is going to allow you to register that device and call them up or email them or what have you if something goes wrong with that, and you'll be able to get pretty decent support dealing with them directly. Support for something like a Godox or a third party is going to be sketchy from time to time. I believe Godox has a decent rapport with support. I've never had to call them, quite frankly. All the stuff that I've used from Godox just works, and I haven't, knock on wood, given them a call as of yet. And honestly, if something goes wrong with the flash that I have, I've had it for quite a while now. What flash is, I've had them for quite a while now. And if something goes wrong with them, I've already got my money's worth out of them. So I'm probably not even going to call them up and say, hey, something's wrong with this thing. You need to look at it. So that's the kind of stuff that you have to consider. Now, he mentioned one more thing here. He mentions the anti-reflection lens hood. Okay, so on my screen here, we have some other anti-reflection lens hoods on here. We have a couple of different things. Personally, I've not used any of these, and I've seen that people would, try them out and have gotten decent results. I've seen it used more so with smartphones than I've seen it used with a regular DSLR or a mirrorless device or anything like that. At one point, these things were fairly expensive, and there was a couple of Kickstarters out there that were trying to overcharge for these devices and it didn't really offer much more. I don't mess with those. I don't have much of an opinion about these lens skirts and lens hoods, but I do recommend these type of lens hoods here, like this one listed on the screen, the 18 to 55 mil. These type of lens hoods are quite useful for shooting outside in the daylight because it does help minimize the glare that the sun may be casting over to your screen, to your lens, and really start to screw up the image that you're working with. And it also adds just an extra bit of protection for the front of your lens. If something is going to knock the front of your camera, more than likely it's going to hit the front of that lens hood before it hits that lens. I don't worry about protection too much, but I do worry more so about actual lens flare coming in from the sun, based on the environmental settings that I have going on outside. So that's my 2 cents when it comes to lens hoods and lens skirts. Your mileage may vary. We'll have a couple links in our show notes, affiliate links that is, for you to check out a couple different options regarding these different types of items, the flash, as well as the lens skirt and lens hood. All right. Okay. So this next feedback comes in. Let me pop it up on the screen for you. This one says, Ant, I'm a big fan of yours. I own a Sony a7 III with the standard kit lens, the SEL 28-70. That's what that stands for. Hoping to get my hands on a Sony G Master zoom lens, the SL 100. I'm not going to read all that out. That's the 100 to 400 mil someday, because I love to shoot wildlife and I'm still saving up for that. And by the way, I've truncated this email. It was a little long, so I've truncated it just for the effect of this show. Anyway, continues. My question has to do with print photography. I plan to go with a professional online print shop, not a home printer. With this combination, what is the largest print size I should go with? I've read that I can go with a 13 by 9 inches since this camera has a 24.2 megapixel sensor. How much does the lens itself affect this? Is it worth trying to go with a larger print size using this kit lens? And if I got a Sony G Master lens, would it be worth it then? I'm hoping to make prints that I can frame and place on my walls at home. So the larger, the better. Any recommendation for online print shops would be appreciated. Your fan, Freddie Hernandez. All right, boy, this is quite a bit to tackle on this. Thank you, Mr. Freddie. I appreciate the email. You said some really kind things in the untruncated version of this email. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so let's talk about printing. There's a lot of things to consider when it comes to printing your photographs. Yes, you can print them at home. A lot of times you can even print some little say 4x6s, 5x7s on a standard desktop printer, as long as you have plenty of ink and have a decent photo paper at your disposal. And it's pretty inexpensive, and it works out quite nicely. But yeah, you may want to go with the larger format printer, actual dedicated photo printer to print photos on a more serious basis there. Okay. With the size 8x10, that's a pretty standard size photograph. I'm not going to concern myself with the megapixels of your camera. Okay. I'm not going to concern myself too much with the lens, but I'll get into that here momentarily. If you want to print an 8x10 with a 24 megapixel camera, you can certainly do so. You can actually print larger than that with the 24 megapixel camera. These things have a lot of resolution available to us. And the key things to consider with that resolution in actual printing is the pixels per inch. You want to try to shoot at 300 DPI to get a maximized resolution when you print that out onto your photo paper. When it comes to dealing with those larger size prints, yeah, you can get away with shooting, say, a 50 megapixel camera without an issue, but your 24 megapixel camera will still do that as well. I've printed up to 3 feet on the long edge. That's 36 inches. I've printed up to 36 inches on the long edge using my standard Canon 6D Mark II, which is a 24 megapixel camera. I can't remember. And I've also done the same thing with a smartphone, because smartphones are pretty high resolution nowadays. And I think my smartphone was a little bit lower at about, I think it was 15 megapixels. I don't remember which one it was, but I have printed and sold prints with smartphone images in a large format. Okay, so when you're talking about large format printing, the things that people are going to look at and say, well, will it look good if it's that big? Yeah, it depends. If it's a large print, having that extra high DPI will help. Having some clarity on it will help. But think about, where are you going to have that actual print posted in your home? Where are you going to have this print? It's probably going to be up on the wall. That's going to be a good 10 feet away from you in distance, probably. Okay, let's say it's not even 10 feet. It's going to be 5 feet away in front of you. Your eyes, you need to have eagle eyes to be able to see the incredible detail of that print. So details is good to have, but it's not the biggest thing when it comes to actually printing photographs. Okay. If you're printing some portraits for someone, say like you wanted to print out some headshots in 8x10s to hand to a studio, an agency for like an actor or something, you want that quality to look outstanding. You want that to be super duper sharp, because it's an 8x10 and they're going to be holding it up in their face pretty close like this here, looking at the details. With prints, not so much. They're far off in the distance. Now I have a little online chart here that I could share with you folks here. Let me see if I can switch over to that screen. That gives you a nice little breakdown. This came from irvin75.org. That gives you a nice little breakdown of the capabilities of printing your images. Now, this is using a scale of 1 to 6, where 1 is the absolute worst option for printing, and 6 is the absolute best. And if you look at the capture resolution of a 4 megapixel camera, you can print an 8x10 with a 4 megapixel camera with a super high DPI up to 300. Okay. 8x10, 4 megapixels. I'm pretty sure whatever phone you have, whatever camera you have in your home, whether it's a smartphone or just a DSLR or what have you, I don't care how old it is, it's probably a higher resolution than 4 megapixels. This continues up to 10 megapixels for an 8x10. And if you look at a 10 megapixel camera trying to print out a 20-inch by 30-inch print, it is still super duper capable and still going to look good. So there, it's right there in the numbers. It's not something that you have to worry too much about as far as the print quality. You did ask about the additional G Master lens. The lenses will make a difference. But where the lenses are going to make a difference is for the sharpness. But again, if you're going to print, say wildlife, say you want to capture a bald eagle in flight or what have you, and you're able to get that bird in flight with that 400 mil locked on focus with the eye, and you snapped it at the perfect shutter speed, the perfect lighting, and it's just beautiful, and you decide to print a nice 36-inch or 42-inch print, and you put it up on your wall, it's going to look amazing from 5 feet away. It's going to look amazing from 10 feet away. It is. It's just, I mean, you can only see so much detail in photography. There's a reason you can take an iPhone and snap a photograph and use that same photograph up on a billboard as you go down a big, massive highway or something. That billboard is way far away off in the distance, and it is a massive print. But because it's so far away, the DPI doesn't necessarily has to be as high because of the way we see things. It's all about the distance. And I think a lot of people, they tend to overthink printing photographs. It's just, you can print it out pretty easily at home, but don't worry too much about getting into the weeds of just how sharp this thing has to be, because nobody's going to be worrying about that print on the wall and say, that looks a little too fuzzy, Ant. You really need to sharpen that image up. Most cases, they're not. All right. Okay. I hope I've answered that question. I hope I've helped you out with that. I highly recommend printing out your photos. There are a lot of different print services available. There's SmugMug. I love SmugMug. I believe Flickr also offers them. And then I also use Fine Art America. I'll put links to all of these folks here in the show notes. But if you can avoid printing online, I highly recommend seeking out a local printer in your community. Show your local print shop some love and go support them. This is a time where our local economy needs all the help they can get. So if you can find someone locally, whether it's within a couple miles or 10 to 20 miles, what have you, I would try to find someone local in your community and go share the love with them. All right. Okay, folks, that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for joining me each and every Thursday here on TWiT. I really do appreciate all of the support. And again, if you have any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to send them over to hop@twit.tv. That's my email address, or just tag me on Instagram or Twitter. On Instagram, I am Ant_Pruitt. And on Twitter, I am Ant_Pruitt as well. I look forward to hearing from you, and I can't wait to see what you all send me. I get a lot of interesting photos shared to me here in the community, and I do really enjoy checking out these images. Y'all are really, really talented. All right, folks, with all of that said, you all safely create and dominate, and we'll catch you next time. Y'all take care.
Hey, if you like tech news, but you also like hearing about it from the people who are actually writing the stories, well, I've got a show for you. It's called Tech News Weekly, and it's me, Jason Howell, along with my co-host, Micah Sargent. Every week, we invite the people making and breaking the biggest tech news stories from around the web onto this show to talk to us about it. It's a lot of fun. You should check it out. Tech News Weekly can be found at twit.tv/TNW every Thursday. We'll see you there.